Hello. It's nice to be here. First of all, before I start the presentation, I think it's nice to say just what I feel is I'm glad to be here and everything has been lovely. It's a good experience. And next year, I'm sure I'll be here again. But thanks for everything the Zentyal guys, they have done for us, and it's amazing. Now, before I go to the presentation, because it will take us a while to go into different areas in security, I'm not sure how many in this group have done penetration testing. Have you heard about penetration testing? Okay. Now, my presentation, it took me almost a month to figure it out how I can best deliver this presentation, because we have never met before. I've got my own ideas and all that, what I do in my small lab. So I wanted to bring something to you, because I think from yesterday and today I've discovered there are some users for Zentyal, and there are also some people who are technicians. So I'll try the best so that at least I can deliver a presentation which you can understand and see where it all fits in. So first of all, we'll do, for those people who are trying to do a training of some kind with Zentyal and other products like Cisco routers and switches and different vendors, because it's my belief that if you are using Zentyal, you are more advanced to a normal Windows person who uses Windows, let's say just Windows XP. You are far more advanced just by using Zentyal, because one, it runs on Ubuntu, so you have to know up to get how you can, like what the other guy was doing, using the widgets and all that. So it gives you more playing field so that you can do lots of things with it. So you are already knowledge-based, you are already advanced one step ahead. So I'll just try to bring in some tools which you can use so that at least you can experience Zentyal in a different perspective from the training ground, so that if your boss says, I want to use Zentyal, two Zentyals for this architecture, you can easily deliver. Not only deliver by word of mouth, but you can actually show tangible proof. This is how we are going to do it. This is how the data flow is going to do everything. So the program I use is called GNS3. I think it's graphic network, it's a simulator. Not many people, they use it, but if you are doing CCNA, Cisco Certified Network, a few people, even to CCIE, which is the last qualification in Cisco, you can use GNS3. If you are using, whether it's Microsoft, you are doing a Microsoft qualification, you can also use GNS3. For my small company, I use GNS3 to an advanced level, because I want to know which packets are going where, how the desktop, which are in virtual machines, they are playing, then I can easily try to win them in or try to do a penetration testing, as it is called. So I'll go on the slides on the laptop there, then we'll see how it goes. So we'll go first for GNS3, then afterwards, I'll show you how I do GNS3. Then afterwards, we'll go into the hacking itself, the penetration side of things. for GNS3, you can use, I've got a small router to give me my DHCP. So does anybody know what a DHCP is? Or I'm talking French or something. This one will provide all the IP addresses I need in my network. Okay. And I've got these cables. All this equipment will go into GNS3 and I'll play exactly as you would normally do. So there's no difference in it. Right. Now, to run GNS3, you have to be a root user. Because the root user, it gives you more advantage. So I'm going into the file where the GNS3 is. So wait for it to come. There we are. I don't know how it's looking on your screen. Yeah. Now, when you open GNS3, you have to install the iOS for routers. That is the actual router, the image, you extract it and you put it in GNS3. So when you are playing with GNS3, it looks at the image, which is compressed in a bin file, then you expound it to be a normal image. So when the GNS3 looks at it, it looks as if you have got a Cisco router sitting over here, because you use the actual image. The images I'm using has got what we call K9. K9 image allows you to do security with it. So you can do IPsec, which is tunneling from one location to the next via the internet, more like a VPN sort of. You can use IPsec for this. You can use lots of things with it. So what I'll do at the minute, I'll just work out how I do it, then you just follow with the mouse. Then later on, we can break it down, because there are several steps. So for the project, where my mouse you see is where I can write the project name. So we'll call it ABC. Now, if we want to save the NVRAM so that the Cisco device can keep that, then you tick in that box. And so you say, okay, now this area where my mouse is going around, that's where we put all the objects, I would say, in there so that we can connect. So it will be similar as if a technician comes with his box, he's connecting the wires. That's exactly the same what will happen in there. Now, first of all, I've got the crowd. Now, the crowd, you can think of it as anything, the network card, which it will be either Ethernet connecting to IDS to the internet, or else it will be wireless. So the cloud, you tell it to be your network card, which is a wireless. So in my case, because I've put the small router here with a Cat5 cable, I'll put it as Etho0. So I'll go into the VirtualBox guest, then I'll bring it there, then it brings a small tab, and it displays all the virtual machines I've got. Now this one is embedded already with a virtual machine. So the virtual machine I'm using, when I do the icon for VirtualBox, it will show me all the programs I've got. Oh, so in here, this one where that's a Red Hat, then I've got another one, Ubuntu, that's for forensic. That's the Zentyal box. Now, if you see that red light, that means when you are closing last time, you didn't close it properly. So it still remembers. So you can refresh and take that one out. And this one is also it's a Slacks distribution which came out a while ago. But this one, they try to put vulnerabilities which are like loopholes onto this small product. So I use it to practice. It's good for training. So we'll go back, we'll drag that one into there. Then we'll go for the Windows 2003, because that will be our victim. So put it there. Then when I bring the mouse on there, when I click, it gives me configuration. So you can configure, you can actually change the host. You can change the host here. So first we'll go into the configuration because we want the network card. So the network card here, automatically, because it's a server, it prefers 2 or more. Because the actual hardware, you have maybe 4 to 3 ports on, maybe it's a Dell server, a big one, gigaports coming out. So this one also starts simulating that. So you can start from 1. You start from 2 upwards. So you can increase up to 4 if you are going to play with 4 ports. Now automatic, we'll change it, and we'll tick those 2. Then we say, okay. Now, for us to connect to the Ethernet, we'll use a cloud. So we'll drag a cloud out. Now the cloud will do a similar thing. We can change the host here. So you just put space. Now this one is, in this case, I'm simulating as if I'm going into a website. So you could think of this an ISP or something. Then I'll go again on configuration. I want to check the network card. Now you can choose LO is a loopback adapter, which is 127.0.0.0.1. And you can choose either generic or you can use the Linux one. So I will use the Linux one. And that's the network card I want. Then I'll say add, then OK. Now to communicate between the Windows 2003 to the internet, I need some sort of a switch in between, because that's networking, that's how we do it. So in this case also we do it similar. So the switch I get is this just Ethernet switch. In fact, this one is a hub. So you know properties of a hub. The DHCP talks to each port. So if somebody is connecting to any port, you will see the traffic. So if I put a Wireshark, because GNS3 comes with a Wireshark, on that point, I can connect my Wireshark and see which traffic is going where. So in this case, we'll drag the switch, position it in the middle. Now, I go to this small button here, and I'll choose manual now to connect the cables. So when I click, that's Ethernet 1, which I'm using, to the switch, that's 1 again. Wait for a moment, both. The switch is already talking. On the security point of view, you have to start getting worried because the switch is talking without telling it to talk. So when we go to hacking a lot, I'll explain what happens in this scenario, how you take advantage of this kind of behavior. Now we go again, we select 2, that's port 2, we go into the crowd, we click again, we choose that one, and the crowd is already, because it's a loopback adapter, I've connected, it's already talking. Without telling them to issue DHCP, they are doing them automatic. You know, they are distributing, asking query. So there's certain bytes which are moving before when you just set up, traffic is already moving. So you have to be conscious about that. Because so we'll go back to Windows 2003. Let's see if it can see the DHCP we have set. The way we do it, we have got a play button here. When you press a play button, everything in this box, it will start running. But you can do it also individual so that you have, especially on my laptop is small, so I try to switch one thing at a time so that it doesn't consume the memory and all that. So we'll switch off this one for the cabling. We'll go back here and we'll just say start. Now, Oracle is starting, that's the virtual box running now. So I'll hide the GNS3, then I'll tell this one to be in view view. So you play with the virtual box the way you normally do it, only that you have got additional functionality. When you connect with GNS3, you have more area, more room to maneuver around. Now, to log in as usual, we go to the machine, we go Control plus Alt Delete, we're in, we'll put the password. Now, here, we have got already 1.0 gig because we are that close to the network card. So we are getting 1 gig, which is impossible if you think of a network. But in this case, virtualization, we are on 1 gig. Now we'll go into CMD, which is similar like a terminal for Windows. And we'll just ask it so that we see the IP address. Now already we have got an IP address without even actually struggling to get an IP, it just comes because the router is asking who wants the IP address. Now that information, who wants the IP address, we use the Wireshark. It will actually write who this IP address belongs to because it asks, it wants to give DHCP. For the security standpoint point of view, that's very dangerous because if I come with my backtrack, I connect to your network, I don't need to ask or do social engineer to find what your IP address is. The DHCP will give me automatic. So I'll be on your network, the DHCP will give me an IP address. So at this moment in time, we'll go back to GNS3 so that I can show you some other things. Now, if I want to connect a Wireshark is a network protocol analyzer. It has been long for donkey years, maybe 10 or 20 years or more. It's very reliable. What this program does, it looks, if you can imagine, the cable itself, like this cable, you have sliced it in two, and you're actually seeing the packet going backwards and forth. So this Wireshark zooms in, looks at the protocols. So you are talking of TCP, UDP, SMB, most all the protocols you'll be able to see. So in this same scenario, I'll try to see if my Wireshark will work. But when you want the Wireshark to work, let's say I want on the switch, so I have to do the marking for the switch so that we can easily see where we are when we are talking, let's say where my mouse is. So there's a tab already in there. If I click that tab, it gives me that from there is Ethernet 1. It goes into the switch at 1 there, and it comes out at 2, and that's the network card we are using. So I can enlarge it, so at least you can be able to see. Now, if I want to connect a Wireshark, let's try, because I'm not sure whether the Wireshark will work in this one. We go on the topology summary, and we click all this, because it says, if you look at this diagram in comparison with this one, where we want our Wireshark to be, we want to see on Ethernet 1 how the traffic is moving there. This is being mapped to the actual cable, which I've put as Ethernet 0. So when I'm working sometimes with a complex diagram, on this, what I normally do, I'll have a paper, then I have to do by hand where I'm connecting. So that when I start using this, I'm not distracted on the topology itself, because it maps it a little bit different, even though it's underneath is working. So you also have to do that so that it's very easy for you to follow it through. That's Windows 2003 where my mouse is. There, that's where we want to capture the traffic. So I'll click with my mouse there, then I'll say start capturing. It gives me, it says it will be capturing Windows 2003 at that Ethernet 0. Then I'll say OK. Now it says this Windows 2000 has to be restarted, so you have to switch it off and back on. Now GNS3, when you are switching off a machine and back, it's a little bit faster than going to the VirtualBox itself. So I'll say OK, then I'll click here, then I'll just say stop. Then in instant, that machine is gone, it's switched off. It's like a fast booting. Now, you can see that captures host name, the Windows 2003 is ready. So let's see if Wireshark, we can hook up a Wireshark here. There I see, start Wireshark. So we'll start Wireshark. Now, on my other machine, I turned out to be a little bit too aggressive with laptop, so I've got another laptop in there. But on that one, it's definitely working with the Wireshark. But you have to install everything from, not from scratch really, but you have to go in detail when you are installing GNS3. That's why most people, they doesn't prefer to work with it, because they have to know how it works, how to configure the actual folders in the folder, in the root folder where you normally put it. So I've got a script, not a script, rather a methodology how to do it. I've done it. So hopefully I can later on give you how to do it so that you can do it, connect with the Wireshark. But there's a community behind and lots of videos on YouTube on how to use GNS3. is a big community, but you need to go to that steep cave, learning cave. Once you are over that, the rewards are very immense, very immense. Any product which is out there, which is big, in GNS you find it. That's why I'm saying when you are doing Zentyal, you are already broad-minded, you can practice. You can be a winner in almost every field because Zentyal requires you to know lots of stuff. VPNs, how to connect from different users. The scenarios are endless. I'll show you some of the scenarios I was using with GNS. So you are already there. All you need is this tool to put together with Zentyal, then the rewards will be immense. Now, if the Wireshark was working, after there, start Wireshark, Wireshark use a wind cap. So I think it's the wind cap which is not playing on here. But I can show you what Wireshark is all about because I'm using backtrack. So in backtrack, when we want Wireshark, I think in almost, even Zentyal, you can also install Wireshark. So all you do, you just put Wireshark, then it will come up. There's network protocol analyzer coming up. That's Wireshark. And here, I can still capture the traffic I want, even though I'm not doing it inside the GNS3. I can do it using, at this moment, this will be like a host. So I've got two machines. The Windows 2003, which we are playing in GNS. In the host, which is the computer itself, is the backtrack. So I've got two users. So we'll use backtrack to attack Windows 2000. But Windows 2000, I've put it virtually into GNS3. Is there everybody else following me? Because I might be talking too fast. Okay. Now, with this Wireshark, all we do is we'll capture from the host side point of view, looking at Windows 2003. So we see all the traffic going in. Then the other tool which I'll use whilst I'm in backtrack is Nmap. It's network mapper. It's very strong. You can use it to even go into another computer. Last month, which is September, I was given a small task to play with Zentyal to see if I can breaking in. And it was very interesting. The results were very impressive. So later on, you can remind me what my research entails, because I haven't put it on slide, but I can easily tell you. But here I don't want to lose you. So we'll go to our scenario so that I show you that scenario. When we have time, we can do questions. Then I can also tell you what I found with Zentyal. Now on Wireshark here, where it says start, first of all, we'll go into capture options. There is a term in Wireshark, promiscuous mode, whereby the network card, you tell the network card that any traffic you see in the network, capture it. And you can also use Wireshark to remotely go for a machine which is in the network, in this case like Windows 2003, and use the Wireshark so that you are connecting direct to the network card, which is Ethernet 0. So when Windows 2003 is talking, you can capture everything. Now what does it entail? In the world of penetration testing or hacking as general, when a user comes on Windows 2003, he is using it in his house, and he wants to send bank details to the bank to pay for something or eBay. There will be traffic going in, whether it's HTTPS or whatever, traffic will be going from A to B. If you use Wireshark, and he's not using a secure means, all that traffic you can capture. So his password you can capture. Anything, everything you can capture. So that's the beauty of Wireshark. But there's one product which I'll be using in here. Its name is called Metasploit. So I've got the slides for that. Whilst I'm hacking, I will introduce you to Metasploit. I don't want to go into there yet. Now, the network card will tell it start. Now, when I tell it to start, you can see already Ethernet 0, which is the actual physical. It has given an IP address of 100. This one is the actual the host. To verify that, we'll just produce a small window here, and we'll do ifconfig. Now, if we look at the information we have been given from ifconfig program, it is saying it's 192.168.2.100. And it hasn't given us only that, it has given us the broadcast address, which is 255. And it hasn't stopped there. It has given us IP version 6. Now, there's more security on IP version 6. Basically, IP version 6, it has to be switched off if you are not using it. That's my advice. Because there are applications out there. I've got one application there where you can attack version 6. So if you are using any server, version 6 is up, switch it off. Otherwise, you are inviting people to look at it. So here we'll try to do a ping to our 2003 first, just to see if the connectivity is there. So we'll do a ping. It's actually a packet internet network grouping, if you want to know the definition for it, but in short, we just call it a ping. So we'll do 192.168.2. So we'll go to our Windows in GNS 2003, which we had switched it off. We'll switch it back on. It's very fast coming up. Whilst that one is loading, I'll just tell Wireshark to go straight ahead. So I'll put start. Now, it hasn't taken, because remember we are running on 1 gigabit per second. So you can see the traffic is going through very fast. Now we'll go to our 2003 machine, because we want to ping. I'll minimize this one. There we are. Then I'll go Control or Delete. If you do Control Delete on the machine, if you are using Windows, you boot the whole computer. So you have to use that tab so that you can just use that instant of that virtual machine to open. So I'll put my complex password. Now we are in Windows 2003. Let's bring it in the middle there. Now, the other way, if I don't want to go CMD, sometimes I go here. Now, it's starting to send, but it hasn't received anything yet. So we go into support. We can see we are 192.168.2.3, and the default gateway is 10. So I will leave it on there, then I will get the ping window. So it's .3, and we tell it to ping. So if the connectivity is okay, it will go in there, but in this case, the destination, we can't reach it. That means there is something happening which is blocking our pings to go into Windows 2003. So it's time to do some troubleshooting. But in this case, we'll see how we can do it. And either we don't need to go in detail to do troubleshooting, because I believe you all know how to do troubleshooting for this. Now I think the problem might be the network card we are using, because sometimes the network card changes, it gives you generic. So I'll go in here. There we have this on generic. Because GNS3, you have to bear in mind that is a free product, it's on open source. So you have to tweak your way out, and but it's very good. So I know sometimes when it does that, it's the network card. So in there, I go, then I'll just tell it, do bridge. Then here you tick allow cable connected. So okay, now we get another problem. It doesn't want bridge. So we'll choose another one. We'll try put it internal, see if it will accept that one. As you can see from Windows here, it notices that the network card is off, is up. So it's exactly the way you could normally do it if you had two separate computers. Now let's see if we can receive some packet. The sending is very high there, but yet we are not receiving. So we'll try to ping again from here. Unreachable, okay. Never mind. Now we know that one is running. We have done the GNS side of things. So here I'll pause for a while so that I get a little bit of feedback before I move on to something else. So that at least the GNS is done, then it will just be purely hacking. Is there any questions, or have you understand how GNS works? If there is any doubts, voice them now so that we can deal with them before we move on to the ethical hacking side of things. Yeah? It's good? Okay. So that was about the GNS3 and how it works. If you still in future having problems with it, I'm sure I'll do some tutorials and I'll give them to the Zentyal guys so that they know how to distribute this kind of thing. So I'll give them, then you can have time to see it and do GNS3, because it's my aim and my wish that from now on you should be using GNS3 for anything, because I know it will give you a good a strong background and something to go forward. So I'll quickly show you some of the other topologies which I did using GNS3. So this one is saved. I'll switch it off here, so everything is off. I'll open another one just to show you. Now, I'll just quickly go on to this one before I forget. Because I've been playing with Zentyal for a month or so, I will show you one of the lab which I did. Let's pick this one. Now, as you can see, it's similar like the one we just did. Only this is the Zentyal box. If I switch it on, it will take a while, but it suffice to say, from that drop box which is coming, Ethernet 1 is connected to switch port, is going for the internet. So this one is one of the examples when you are studying where you have to have 3 network cards. I have another one with 4 network cards also. You can also play with that one. And it's saying VirtualBox guest wrapper is running on, that's a low, you can have a small web page inside it and also communicate with it as if you are inside with your loopback adapter. So any web page which that program you are using, you can communicate to it as if you are local. So that's one diagram. The last diagram, let's see what I was doing in there. It's taking time, so now this one is I was using with 4 PCs and network also. I was using a Red Hat as a web server, then I had my user. So in my scenario, I was attacking from the host, going into this crowd, going down into the switch, trying to bypass completely 2 subnets, 2 networks, because this one here, E3, was .200, whilst the top one, which is E1, I think it was the normal 192.168.1. something. So I was trying to attack this Windows Xbox this far from the internet all the way through on there. And I got some surprising results and very good results. If I had put Windows 2003 here, it would be like I'm on Autobahn in German, you know, just Autobahn down the road, you know. So let me just explain quickly on here before I move on so that I don't have to remember what I did in my research. Now, Zentyal is very good in the sense of you install it, like we do in Windows. When you finish, the only time you can attack it at that instant is when the user is actually doing his installation. So the installation you are talking of depends on the network, is the speed and all that. So you are talking of a maximum of 20 minutes or 15 minutes. In that scope, you can be attacked. But once you finish installing Zentyal, amazing things happen. The firewall kicks in. Now the firewall blocks all the ports. I think it's 999 ports. When you see I'm using Nmap, it will report that 999 ports are filtered. Then anyone who is trying to do that, something comes in his mind that there's a firewall on, because it's prohibiting seeing the services coming out. Now this, for Windows, forget it. You have to look for a separate vendor to install your firewall. or you have to click and use theirs. I'm not sure how strong, but in my experience, you can, if you use Metasploit framework, go on YouTube, just type Metasploit framework, you'll see all the videos. It's a big hurrah on how we bring down this kind of machines. You can actually update antivirus on Windows box. You can actually fix the user's problem even though you are attacking it. We'll go into that penetration on the steps so that you see how we normally do it, because we have got a structured way of doing it. But it's that easy. But for Zentyal, you have to sweat, because the firewall, one, is on, you can't see anything. Two, the user needs to go to the IDS, which is Intrusion Detection System, fantastic product. You have to switch it on all the Ethernet ports you are seeing, so that it looks to see if there is any strange IP address coming. So you can filter it, you can know about it, then you can start counter-attacking and neutralize the threat, because it will collect everything. So it's good to go in there. The one point you have to bear in mind is when doing a firewall, you have to make sure you have got a normal paper with your network diagram and with what services you want to let from your local LAN, in this case on Windows 2003, whether that user wanted to browse the web page from here, because this is a hub, the traffic might route to the Zentyal box and back again into the Red Hat. So if I'm attacking from there, if I manage to compromise the Zentyal, then I'll be seeing that traffic traversing to the web server. So in this case, I'll go to the Zentyal box and tell it that traffic, which is HTTP, when it goes to the Zentyal box, IDS firewall, they have to filter, they have to look at it. If it is destined for Red Hat here, the policy, I have to source, in this case, which will be that Windows box with an IP address, let's say in this case, .3. So you say, that is in firewall, now you're doing your policy. If you see Windows .3, allow that source to destination, which will be the Red Hat with this IP address. That way, you know which service is traversing in your network to where it's supposed to reach. But if you're a technician, you had a bad day, at home things are not working, you haven't been given annual leave, you just said, as long as I get paid, so what? Everything is working. Then you go, Windows XP, I don't need to know the IP address. I'll just put source NA, destination NA. What you have done, you have just opened the doors wide open. The firewall, yes, is there, but the firewall, we have to tell it what to do. You don't let the firewall do its own thing. You have to carefully manage it properly. You have to document what you have made changes and all that. It's very vital. Now, in this case, that technician is bored and he has put in any. He has given me a chance to visit his network and look at what XP holds. Especially if there is a database in there, I don't need to struggle much. So you have lost, it's the same as you're doing boxing, you have let your guard down, the head is exposed, and it's knocked out. Now, that's about the Zentyal and what I did find out. So I would say if you are using Zentyal as a user, you are using a good platform, well, very strong, as we have here from different guys. But from the security point of view, you have got a red thing on the dashboard which tells you whether your updates are right or not. That is a bonus. And the firewall by default does that for you. Now we'll do now the scenario for hacking, and let's see what windows, can happen. So I'll just use a normal virtual box. Then you should be able to get the DHCP there instead of doing it virtually, because I think maybe there might be a few limitations and all that. So we'll just do one box for Windows XP and Linux. Then we'll go into the second part, which is the penetration testing. Do you want to have a pause whilst I'm sorting that one out, or? Okay. Second, there's 20 minutes of coffee break. No, before the coffee. Oh, before the coffee. Okay. Right. So at this point, I won't go into backtrack and all that. I'll just go straight to the meat. Then we can talk some of it during the questions and all that. I'm using a small program. It's called Armitage. It's a first product on how to hack computers. But before I go into hacking itself and all that, because there's lots of myths and all that, I will do the presentation on there. So we'll go through the presentation before I show you Armitage attacking. So OS is connecting to as you can see the screenshots there verify what I was doing. Lots of it. That's purely installing their screenshots. There's the firewall, there antivirus. There's IP addresses, 3 IP addresses. There is app. You see, so yes, I was working. So there is some of the proof. So go into the presentation, which I believe is this one. Oh, no. There we are. That's me. That's my email address and all the contacts there. Now I'll go a little bit in, because I didn't explain who I am and all that. We just went straight into the talk. Originally, I was born in East Africa, which is Malawi. Armitage is on now. So I was born in Malawi. I left Malawi 2000, then I joined the British forces. So first when I joined the British forces, I was in infantry, called the Pioneers. So I moved on from there. I stayed in infantry for 2 years. I ended up going all sorts of nice places. Then I got posting to Germany. So I stayed in Germany for about 4 years. Whilst I was in Germany, I was working for G6, which is NATO headquarters itself, the communication side of it is called G6 because they're in groups. So I was working under the British Army, but in G6, in NATO headquarters. So I met people from France, military people from France, Spain, almost Hungary, all the places. We talk, we do exercise. So for 4 years, it was very nice because NATO had deployed Windows 2003. So yes, I can testify that I've been a network administrator for 4 years. So I know Cisco products, I know Windows architecture servers, big racks, I can install Dell and dismantle and put them together. So it gives me a good background on what I want to do. But until I went to the university, then they told me that they have also a security course. But before that, I started doing my own, I was starting with Backtrack on my own interest. So I ended up to accumulate more knowledge on how to physically attack the way people today, the elite, are doing. So I had that advantage of doing that. When I went to the university, even though I'm on my year off, I was supposed to do work replacement, but because I've worked for 7 years, so they said, you don't need to. So I thought this is time to do my business, make things moving. At the university, if I talk to lecturers, there's a big gap because it seems I know a little bit more, the lecturers are just getting their money and that's it. So I thought I might as well do it myself. So that's the university. In the university, I'm doing, my degree will be cyber security. I've finished my 2nd year. Now I'm going my 3rd year to do a final project. But whilst at the university, I've learned digital forensic, so I can do forensic, digital forensic. I use NCASE and all those products, I can use them, but I prefer to use open source products. Now, why do companies want to do penetration testing? The first thing is they want to protect their business asset. This is it can be a billion company. Overnight, all the money can just disappear, the data out, and they can lose the integrity. People won't trust them, especially if it's the bank. They have to protect the business services. If you want to bank with Santander today, you go on the machine, no service out of order. You go to the town center, no service. They will lose lots of customer and their integrity will be in question and the government will start leaning on them. So the other thing is purely the ISO standard, because the companies have to meet the ISO standard so that when we are filling in the small box, it says the data is protected. Yes, it's protected by the ISO standard. So companies have to give a proof that yes, they are compliant. The other thing is the shareholders of the companies and the public confidence. If you lose public confidence because customer data, somebody managed to compromise and is in the public domain, they will lose customers. So penetration testing comes in before that hack has been done or compromise has been done. Someone comes in which you trust to pretend as if he's a hacker going into your network, and towards the end of that process, he gives you a report to the management and tells you what he has discovered and advise you of the way forward on how to close those before it happens. So a penetration tester, let's say in London, he can easily be at $75,000 £1,000 a year. If you go and search, you see that they're getting paid because it's a smaller community, but it's more specialized and it's more well paid. So if you are doing a course for penetration testing, normally they will charge about 3,000 for a bootcamp for 2 weeks. The only place I know where it's cheap is India. In Goa and Delhi, it's a little bit cheaper, but you do certified ethical hacking, which is a Microsoft Pro kind of hacking. So you get the paper, but to do the job, you have to call me to do it. Because me, I'm more practical based and I do it, but the CH is just a presentation that you can do it. But ask most of the people who have done CH qualifications, they are failing to do the job, but they are very good at talking, advising, which they call it consultancy. So how do they do it with the companies? They will sign a contract, because this job needs a contract and a lawyer, because if, let's say I was doing a penetration testing for a company and they didn't specify that they doesn't want denial of service or distributed denial of service. Do you know denial of service, what it is? Okay. Now, if I do a denial of service, no service, or customers won't, they go to cash point, it will say service are no longer there. I've blocked it. What I've done is just amount of data into the network cards, block it that way, saturate it, traffic can't go anywhere, it can't talk. DHCP just gives up. So that's a denial of service. On here I said penetration testing for eBay, if you are doing for eBay. If you do a denial of service for eBay, if they didn't express it, what would be the outcome? So you have also to think about that. Now the red team, because I need a programmer, I need someone to do social engineering, I can't do it all by myself. I have to have a small team. We call it a red team. So we do it in a group attacking a company. So we call it a red team. Stages we go. We don't just do everything willy-nilly. We have a methodology we follow. First of all, think of it, the analogy I use most of the time is me being in the army as how we do it in the army. For instance, I've been assigned to attack a certain location. Now, the first thing I have to do is reconnaissance. So the first stage in penetration testing is analysis, reconnaissance. So what I'll do, I'll try drive in with my car, see the location, take some pictures, see what I can get, whether there is a free Wi-Fi, I'll try to get the username, and so I'll get lots of information first. Second is which is now this one, because this I'm doing on the internet, I'll start finding more about the target. At the same time, see what services I can see. So port 80 will be open, then I'll say, okay, port 80 is open, then I know I can do tunneling attack on port 80, you know. I see SNMTP open, then I know I'll use another tool for that one. So I'll filter more what I've got for reconnaissance, then later on, I'll use, let's say in this case, we'll use the framework, which is Armitage, to gain access. Now this is the actual attacking the machine. Once I've attacked the machine, I have to maintain my ground in there, domination. So in my scenario as in the army, I've conquered the place, I've taken over. I'll put my post in there, my guard, everything. I'll stick up my flag says, I'm here. Now, because of forensic, I have to perform anti-forensic techniques, which I do it in covering tracks, so that the user doesn't know I was there. So the logs, I'll go and change the logs, so that it doesn't leave a footprint. I'll edit his registry. I'll update his antivirus. So the user, from the user point of view, everything will be nice. Everything is working. In Britain, what we say, if it is working, why changing it? So that one works very well. After I've done that, what next? I will use that machine as a zombie. So I will tell that machine to attack. So instead of me attacking it, I'll just tell that machine to attack. So if I'm caught, it won't be me. It might be that poor lady computers which have managed to make it into a zombie. Now, backtrack in there, just a brief introduction. It comes with 300 plus tools to use. It can be used for penetration testing and also for digital forensic. The beauty of it, when you switch it on, it doesn't ask for DHCP. You have to enable it to tell it, I want DHCP. So, some of the programs which I will use Metasploit. There's Nmap for checking the ports and everything. We use Nmap. For vulnerabilities, we use Nessus. There are several of them, but Nessus has been there long enough. Then the attacking one we use is Metasploit. So I'll try to show you the demonstration on how we attack using Metasploit in a minute. Now there is a screenshot of Nmap. You can see because I was using the same switch, so it was .102, 192.168.2.102, and here is saying which ports are open, the service. This is Microsoft. I think it's a remote. It's to do with remote. If you are doing a remote desktop with Microsoft, that one comes in, but it's very popular in it. And the version is on Microsoft. Port 445 is using TCP there. Now Nmap is trying to find out what is the operating system is using. So it says it might be in Windows 2003, then sometimes it can give you the percentages on which is the highest as probability. That's Metasploit. Now, when I run Metasploit, it will give me all the machines, and it will stick them all up here, and it will identify what operating system is running there. On here, I was scanning to see what port is on Windows 2003, so that I know what to use when I'm trying to compromise that machine. Now, I've taken that machine here. That's the local host, which is this computer. It was running at 192.168.2.100. That's the local port which I was using. That's remote host, the host which I'm trying to attack. That's its IP address, which ends with .102. That's the port which I'm using, which is 135. If we go back this slide of Nmap, 135 135 here, it says it's a TCP. I'm attacking Microsoft remote protocol. 5 minutes, okay. So we are, so here I've told it that when it attacks the machine, it have to reverse, give me the shell, which is the command prompt, the C prompt back. So in the next one, I tick here, I should have the command prompt. So I will press launch. This is what happens. You see here it's running the exploit against that machine, and you see the lightning bolt. When you get the lightning bolt in this case, it tells you that that machine is down. You have got control over it. And this process, maximum, you are talking of 5 to 10 minutes. Now, to prove that that machine, I had indeed control over it, I was using the same HP laptop. It had a webcam. I went to switch on the webcam. I can, if I'm standing like here, it will take a picture of me. The other thing which I did here, I thought it give me a snapshot on what the user is looking at on his desktop using a VNC. Because that attack comes with a VNC. And remember, it's about 10 minutes or so into hacking. So that was the machine down. Now, that's the end of the presentation. I can have maybe 1 or 2 questions just to finish off.
Okay, regarding Zentyal installation, do you mean to say, if I understood properly, that we should install offline using image CD?
You don't need to install offline, because the space you do that.
Yeah, but you have a 25 minutes.
25, yeah, max.
Where you
but
may be at risk.
In that case, you can install everything, because there is no way I would find out what IP address you have got whilst you are in terms of installation. Mm-hmm. I have to wait for it to settle a little bit, which the firewall comes in. Then I will be able to know what's happening. Even though when you are installing, you still get DHCP if you are doing it to the internet and all that. But it's very hard to hack at that time, because once the firewall is in and you have to switch off and back on, that IP address might not be there. So it's if, but you have got more chances. It's very,
that's a very
it's very, just bear in mind, but it's not critical.
And second part of my question is still regarding Zentyal. And IDS today, if I understand properly, the IDS, let's say, features allows to look at what happened, but not to make any decision based on what may happen. Okay?
The IDSs, there's IDS and honeypots. We can go that one down. Honeypots, if I want to attack you, you split your image into 2, and the other person will be standing there, imagine. So when I'm attacking, I will think you are there whilst you are there. Mm-hmm. So I'll attack a dummy, and you're okay. And you can easily look at your dummy, put whether it's a snort or anything, and you start knowing how I'm attacking you. That's how we use the honeypot. IDSs, it depends which IDS you are using.
No, but let's talk about the one we have today in Zentyal, because on the
theoretical standpoint, you're
you have
right, IDS.
But the IDS we have today on Zentyal is, I would say...
By default, it will be there. It's there already.
No, it's not by default, but assuming you install it, you have it. But my point is to say, okay, today you have IDS, which is useful if you spend time looking at IDS reports. And next step could be to have an IDS that is a bit more, because IDS can do it, to have something a bit more powerful to switch from, let's say, reporting activity to some action to trigger some...
Yes.
I mean, to change IP tables,
Yeah,
firewall.
it's being used widely, yes.
Yes, and today this doesn't, that's my point, doesn't exist on Zentyal. What's the plan? Question for you, not for you.
Yeah, this question is for me, or maybe for Khonje. So yeah, we have been having the IPS idea on the roadmap from time to time. So instead of being just a detection system, it should be prevention system. So if it detects, then it reacts. So that could be added for the next roadmap. I think at the end of this afternoon, we're going to have this discussion, open discussion about which features we actually want to integrate on 3.2 and those that we target. But Khonje, please add it to the list of things to discuss. Good. Okay, yeah, I think it's already time to go to a coffee break.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, tea or coffee. Yeah. So thank you, Mussa, very much.
No problem.
Yeah, it was a long presentation, but I think it deserved it.
Thank you.